Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Northwest, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'm Tom Ott. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm your worship associate for this morning's service. We welcome the Reverend Peter Gable, an ordained Presbyterian minister and a member of Northwest, who will be back with us this morning. If you're a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form you will see in the chat box. If you're with us in person, you can fill out the visitor sign-in form in the atrium. Please greet your neighbors with a wave from wherever you are, whether you're here with us online or here in person. Then, before Alex starts the prelude, let's all take a deep breath and settle into a time of worship.
No, this is. Oh, it didn't get put up on the. No. Okay. All right, here we go. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, 'cause you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Then they spend it, you'll have so many, they'll roll all over the floor. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, 'cause you end up having more. It's just like a magic penny, hold on tight and you won't have any. Then they spend it, you'll have so many, they'll roll all over the floor. Love is something if you give it away, give it away, give it away. Love is something if you give it away, 'cause you end up having more.
Okay, very nice, kids. I didn't know you were going to do that for the prelude. Okay. We begin our service today with the land acknowledgement. We collectively acknowledge that Northwest Unitarian Universalist Church occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. In particular, the congregation resides on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We recognize, support, and advocate for the sovereignty of Michigan's 12 federally recognized Indian nations for historical indigenous communities in Michigan and for those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. By offering this land acknowledgement, we pledge ourselves to justice and repair both with the land and its people.
We We light our chalice, the symbol of our faith, knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations across this land and around the world are doing the same. We light our chalice with words from the Reverend Cynthia Landrum. As we kindle this flame, may it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition and to each other.
Good morning. Today we welcome into our community 4 new members. If when I call your name you'd come up to the microphone, all 4 of you at the same time, that would be great. Meg Baker, Joanne Cantoni, Barbara Carney, and Alex Rowan. These individuals have chosen to make a commitment to us at Northwest Unitarian Universalist, our congregation, by signing our membership book. So they are now going to recite a couple words together. Good luck. Go.
With hope and possibility in our hearts, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this congregation. We covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this congregation and guides us. We seek your welcome as we join you in this faith.
And now the congregation will respond together. You can see the words up on the screen. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas, and your vision, in times when it's easy and in times when it is difficult. We seek to be supportive, not only when you reach out, encourage to us, but also when you need us to reach out to you. In return, we ask that you recognize our humanity. We will not always live up to our ideals. And when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. Let us say together, new and existing congregants, the covenant of this congregation, the promise that we make each week to ourselves and to each other, which holds our community together with common purpose and common love in the midst of our beautiful diversity of belief.
We, the members of the Northwest Unitarian Universalist congregation, aspire to be a welcoming, diverse, multi-generational, and inclusive congregation. To this end, we endeavor to treat each other with respect, trust, kindness, and patience, foster expression of ideas, beliefs, values,
We will stand, if you are able, to sing Building a New Way, hymn 1017. The words should be up on the screen as well.
Listen to the language of the trees, a story of how forests communicate underground. Words by Tara Kelly and pictures by Marie Hermanson. The forest was full of chattering. A jay shrieked at a sniffing coyote. A squirrel scolded them from a low branch. The trees rustled as if whispering to each other. No one noticed the tiny seedling pushing its way above the soil. Quietly, its needles stretched out into the cool darkness of the forest floor. It was a miracle it sprouted at all. As a seed, it had been tucked inside a seed cone hanging high on the branch of a giant tree, till one day, chomp, the squirrel grabbed the cone and scampered down the tree. He buried it in a special spot for a winter snack. The seed rested underground for months. Luckily, the squirrel had a lot of special spots. He never came back. Nestled inside its cone, the seed waited. When it was ready, the seedling sprouted at the base of a giant tree. Centuries ago, this mighty tree was a tiny seedling too. Now it towered over all the other trees in the forest, strong and straight. It looked like it could survive anything. But no part of the forest is entirely free from danger. As small as it was, the seedling's roots reached underground and met with the roots of other trees. Threaded between them was a silky net of fungi, a web that stretched from root to root and beyond. Through this web, the forest passed secrets. The trees talked to each other through their roots. They spoke of danger, of drought and pests. They spoke of what one tree needed and another had to give. The seedling began to listen. The giant tree, with its huge crown, gathered an abundance of sunlight. It soaked it up and turned it into food. It took care to send the little seedling enough to nourish it. How did it know the seedling was one of its own? It was a mystery, buried under the soil where the root tips intertwined. It was not only the tiny seedling that depended on the giant tree, but the rest of the forest too. Larger than all the others, the giant tree sent nutrients through the underground web. It brought water up from deep in the earth. It housed the owl that nested in its upper limbs, and the coyote with its den at its foot. Day by day, the seedling inched taller. Then one night, everything changed. The sky came alive with lightning flashes. The forest swayed under the force of the winds, and thunder roared in the sky. Tucked safely down below, the seedling's needles barely rustled, until... Crack! A massive strike lit up the giant tree's crown. Thud! Down went an uppermost branch. The animals of the forest scattered. The jay shrieked. The squirrel ran. For a moment, the giant tree lit up with an orange glow, and then darkness. In the morning, it was quiet. The giant tree had been struck. It had burned briefly, but it still stood tall. Down on the forest floor, the seedling was missing one of its branches, snapped off when a limb had fallen from the giant tree. Otherwise, it had escaped harm. But something was different. A streak of golden light touched the seedling's needles. Instead of only drinking from its roots, it drank in the full light of the sun. For the first time, it made its own food. After the storm, the animals returned to the forest. The squirrel began its seed cone collection again. The owl took a long nap. The forest waited. The forest listened. That's when the first winged beetle landed. The beetle sent out an odor which said, "Attack!" Winging through the air, crawling over bark, beetles clustered on the giant tree and laid their eggs. The giant tree sent out an alarm, "Danger!" The warning pulsed through the forest, passing through tree roots, carried by the web of fungi. Day after day, the beetles attacked, a small but persistent swarm. No more sugar flooded the underground web from the giant tree, just distress. Then something unexpected happened. Through the threads of fungi, from root tip to root tip, nutrients flooded, not out from the giant tree, but toward it. The forest gave what it had so the giant tree might live. And it did. Someday, with luck, the seedling would grow tall too. But for now, it drank deep through the web at its roots and waited and listened as the forest talked.
Thank you. That was beautifully read. Now our children and their teachers will head to room B for some fun activities with Jason Batson and James Hager Henry doing coding and making bracelets. So, and then there'll be a group, the younger kids can go into the nursery, and we have some bubbles and chalk and some kinetic sand. So, could Brooklyn come up today? So you may rise and sing them on our way as they carry the chalice.
One purpose of a religious community is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and in action. This is the great end of all the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that all-important generosity of spirit, an offering that will mutually support the self-supporting congregation and the shared plate recipient. The Social Justice Committee has selected the Native Justice Coalition as the April shared plate recipient. If you would like to donate, you can do so in a variety of ways that are now visible on your screen. And for those here in person, we are passing a collection plate for checks and cash. Now there's a short video to learn more about the work of the Native Justice Coalition.
Bonjour, good morning. My name is Bronson Herman. I'm the Great Lakes organizer at the Native Justice Coalition. Great to be here. Again, our work is for the Native communities here in the state of Michigan, throughout the Great Lakes as well. However, with our community partners, we work with non-Native organizations, interfaith programs as well. And with our programming, we work a lot on healing stories. So that's the Truth and Reconciliation Commission regarding boarding school survivors. We offer talking, healing circles. Additionally, we have a Anishinaabe Racial Justice Conference. We'll be doing our 4th annual one. Really, our work is focused in our culture and our traditions. We are a 6-year-old coalition based out of Manistee, Michigan. Our executive director and founder is out of Manistee. Started out of their home, and I live here in Southeast Michigan, but really we go where we're needed. Depending on the community, we have a diverse community, different cultural elements, and each community has their own need, different issues going on. Some of the most prevalent ones right now are the missing, murdered Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. In the state of Michigan, human trafficking is one of the states with, basically it is a hot spot with all the ports and different areas and being close to Canada as well. So our work is really focused on community, having different perspectives, backgrounds, and these issues are impacting our communities here in the state of Michigan, but these are issues that are necessary for everyone to take on and create exposure. And again, I'm thankful for being here.
Okay. Our next hymn is number 113, Where is Our Holy Church? You're invited to rise in body or spirit as you are willing and able.
Thank you.
Our reading is Crossing Boundaries by Reverend James Ford. Most of us are unaware of this, but when people were being arrested and sent off to death camps, Hitler intervened to protect his former commanding officer who was Jewish. People who hate classes of people seem to have no trouble, or little, in liking and even being friends with members of that class whom they personally know. They say familiarity breeds contempt, and sometimes that's true. My preferred version is, no man is a hero to his valet. So getting to know one another isn't a universal panacea, but it also reveals connections, and with those connections, sympathy, and if one isn't careful, friendship. And Lord knows what happens if our circle of friends gets too wide, although this doesn't really appear to be much of a danger. I read that we in the United States are increasingly living our lives among people ever more like us. The myth of our being a classless society is turning out to be less an aspiration and more a lie, and increasingly heaven help those who wander out of their territory. In the political realm, people who align with the Democratic Party tend to live in the same areas as do people who align with the Republican Party. And how many people of a different race live in your neighborhood? I'm not pretending to be above the fray. On Facebook, the vast majority of my some 3,500 friends roughly fall, not mine, personally. I don't have Facebook. Fall roughly into the same part of the political spectrum as I do. I rarely solicit friendship among those whom I have strong political disagreements, and do feel the urge to defriend the following certain postings about healthcare or immigration or climate change. I find it extremely hard not to see disagreement here about people's motives and character. But, and this is the critical part, I'm willing to forgive those I've come to have a relationship with. No, this doesn't mean you have to be friends with every lunatic that appears in front of you. Although there is some kind of but that I hope we find when the impulse to cut someone off arises. It may be necessary, but. Familiarity is a dangerous thing, but not knowing others is even more dangerous. So what to do about it? Chris Rock once observed that there have been changes in how people relate across race. He said most black people have many white friends, and most white people have one black friend. So he said, if you just laughed or chuckled, there's something inside that suggests one really isn't enough. Hitler's one small act was hardly enough, to say the least. But clearly, at least it seems so to me, we need to push some boundaries here. A little transgression might be a good thing. In these dangerous times, pushing boundaries might be all that saves us. Knowing the other might reveal all sorts of things about the other, about ourselves. And not all of them are unpleasant. Good luck.
Tom, I hadn't read the reading before the service, and I think we can all go now. Well, maybe I can add something. Alex, is it possible to put the audience away from us up there so I can see if Bob's on yet? Oh, bummer. Okay. I knew he wanted to get on. All right. How many of you listen to podcasts? Yeah. Oh, like almost half, it looks like. I first started listening to podcasts when we lived in Chicago, perhaps a dozen years ago. I usually listen to them as a sleep aid when I go to bed. That sounds goofy. In those early days, the choices were limited. Mark Maron, Slate's political gabfest, and of course most of the NPR shows were available for streaming. Now there are thousands of podcasts on every conceivable subject. Lately, my favorite podcasts include Pod Save America, which is produced by some former Obama staffers, Fly on the Wall, where Dana Carvey and David Spade host some other Saturday Night Live performers, writers, and guest hosts, and Smartless, where Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett interview some of their showbiz friends. And finally, Pivot, a business and tech show. I began and still listen to podcasts as a sleep aid, as I said before. Nothing puts you to sleep faster than a few people having a gentle, calm conversation. Just find a pair of cheap, unobtrusive earphones, and usually you'll be falling asleep or back to sleep in just 5 to 15 minutes. Sounds like an infomercial. I didn't sleep, however, through Junot Diaz's appearance on a podcast called The Next Level, a political podcast that is produced by The Bulwark, an organization of former moderate Republicans who left the party of Trump, and I probably wasn't sleeping too well that night. So at least I could listen to a fascinating interview with the novelist Junot Diaz. Mr. Diaz is a Dominican-American writer, a creative writing professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and a fiction editor at Boston Review. He's best known for his two major works. The short story collection Drown was in 1996, and the novel The Brief, Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde in 2007. Both were published to critical acclaim, and he won the 2008 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction for the latter. More recently, he was a New York Times bestseller and National Book Critic Award finalist for This Is How You Lose Her. In 2018, he was accused of abusive behavior in the past by several women. Subsequent months-long investigations by both MIT and the Pulitzer Prize Committee determined that he had done nothing wrong after a months-long investigation. I think we have a fair number of our members who work in academia, like Mr. Diaz does. Can you imagine what it must be like to go through this experience while the whole nation was roiled up by this and many other issues? I'm not speaking really about the overall Me Too movement, which is necessary and long overdue. I'm just speaking of the tiny number of men that have been shown to be falsely accused, put through the ringer. Mr. Diaz was asked about his own reflections, as well as the larger issues of cancel culture and a lack of civil dialogue. FYI, these quotes from Mr. Diaz were taken from a computer-generated transcript of a podcast. These are the days we live in. So some of this will sound like you would expect. Mr. Diaz said, "But I was even with that kind of sort of horizon. I was like stunned. And what stunned me even more was the way that the opposition quickly adopted a lot of he's talking about the former guy, vernacular. I mean, it would be one thing if, we were like those of us who opposed them were kind of coming at it from different tactics, but if I kind of erased the names and kind of a lot of the stuff that was happening, both on the left and the right, they both looked very similar, right? So what kind of we're not going to talk to each other? This person has now said they're my enemy, the kind of things that reinforce habits that outlast the battle. If you're kind of thinking that your enemy is someone that you can never damn speak to because they said X, that's it. You're tainted forever. I mean, those are habits that outlast the skirmish. And those aren't good habits. Those are not good habits. I don't know about you, but I've developed some bad habits since at least 2015. The 4 years of the former guy's presidency, concluded by an insurrection, were bad enough, but the pandemic nearly broke me. And talking to others, I know quite a few others who feel that way. What are some of the effects of the unprecedented turmoil and polarization we've been experiencing? Well, the first one is reduced trust in government and other institutions. When people are polarized, they are more likely to view the government and other institutions as corrupt and untrustworthy. This can lead to a decline in civic engagement and a weakening of democracy. I can guarantee you that I have more mistrust of government institutions than I used to. I don't even trust the post office as much. Another result of this polarization is increased anxiety and stress. Polarization can be a source of great anxiety and stress for all people. When people feel like their values and beliefs are under attack, and everybody's feeling that way nowadays, it can be difficult to cope with the stress of living in a polarized society. And what happens when you or someone in your family is under attack for political gain? Many of us, and the ones we love, are LGBTQ+, or ethnic or religious minorities, or disabled. Another result of polarization is reduced empathy and understanding for others. Political polarization can make it difficult for people to empathize with those that have different views. This can lead down to a breakdown in communication and understanding and make it more difficult to find common ground. And then there's the increased hostility and violence. In extreme cases, political polarization can lead to hostility and violence. This is most likely to occur when people feel like their group is under threat. Just yesterday, I got called by Bob's worker that day. She was at a shopping center near us, and they were going to go into the dollar store, and she was very upset. And she explained that she was driving through the parking lot looking for a parking spot, and there was a car parked like in the parking lot aisle, just to the side, so she went around it. The guy was furious. He yelled out of his car that he was going to kill her, that she cut him off, and so on. So my son's sitting there. Now, I hear this story. I don't know if this is happening because this is what she described as a white thug with tattoos. I think he's a gang member. And Bob's helper is a Muslim and wears a hijab. And, of course, Bob is black. So in these days, I don't know what's going on. Is this more likely to happen because we're all at each other's throats politically? Well, back to Mr. Diaz. He said, we got to have more tolerance. We got to reinforce the ability of people to actually hear people that they think are, or at least to allow views that they think are malignant. Both sides. You can't claim your religion and be like, so this person can't exist. And you can't claim your politics and say, this person doesn't exist. We need more of that space, but there's a lot going on. Yes, there's a lot going on, isn't there? But very little of it seems to be helpful. We need more space, but we're stuck in our corners, repulsed by those in the other corners. Mr. Diaz says, hey, it's a natural impulse under a kind of approval regime of atomization. I actually don't know what that means. Everybody goes into their own corner and does not worry about a thing. But my question is, it's also really convenient, a great alibi not to have to do anything, isn't it? My thing is, what else are we doing while the world burns down? Okay, so as a man, I've got to explain what I think are some possibilities. Expose ourselves to diverse viewpoints, okay? We talked about how do you do that? People who are exposed to diverse viewpoints are less likely to be polarized. This is because they are more likely to understand and appreciate the perspectives of others. This may seem easier said than done, but there are many ways to expose ourselves to people with diverse viewpoints. And here are a few more suggestions of that. And by the way, I suggest you don't start out hardcore. I wouldn't recommend that you turn on a right-wing cable channel and watch it for 24 hours. Wouldn't be good for your health. All right, read books and articles from a variety of sources. This will help you to learn about different perspectives and ways of thinking. I think good literary fiction is one of the best ways to inhabit the world of others. A good novelist will help you develop your empathy muscles. Pick up one of Junot Diaz's novels. I know I will. Watch documentaries and movies that explore different cultures and viewpoints. This can be a great way to learn about different ways of life and to see the world through the eyes of others. Talk to people from different backgrounds and with different experiences. This is one of the best ways to learn about different viewpoints and challenge your own assumptions. And actually, you can do this on Facebook if you use that thing. If you follow the suggestion in the reading, just, you see something you don't like, take a breath, listen, respond kindly, and see where you go. But don't fight with them. Don't fight with them. Okay. Join groups or organizations that promote diversity and inclusion. Now, this is a great way to meet people from different backgrounds and learn about different cultures. I, along with, who else was there? Another member, no, my brain is gone, judged a speech contest that the Farmington Optimist put on. I was invited by, it was Colleen, that's right. And by being part of that activity, we heard speeches from in Farmington Hills from about 7 South Asians kids and one or two black kids. So, hey, we just experienced diversity. And of course their parents came and all that kind of stuff, and we got to hear them expound. So there's events like that where you can actually get a chance to meet people, do stuff. All right. Volunteer in your community. It's similar to that one. Great way to meet different people. Support media outlets that promote diversity of thought. One of the ways that political polarization has been exacerbated is by the rise of echo chambers. These are media environments that only expose people to information that reinforces their existing beliefs. It's important to support media outlets that promote diversity of thought so that people are exposed to various perspectives. And it occurs to me that part of the way to support those kinds of media outlets is to don't just use your free 3 or 5 articles, but maybe subscribe to them so that they have financial support. So, suggestions. Just a few. There's a website called The Root. It's a news and opinion website from various African American perspectives. If you like humor along with your news and opinion, try Michael Harriot on The Root. So that's a recommendation. The Bulwark is a media group that is made up of former Republicans opposed to Trump and the current course of the GOP. They have a whole bunch of podcasts and things to read. They're more conservative than most of us, I would guess, but within what I'd consider reasonable. And if you'd really like to experience some diverse views, just give my brother a call. The last bit of Diaz's reflection is my favorite part. He suggests that what we essentially need to do is remember who we used to be. None of us became who we are fully formed and fixed. If you're anything like me, you wouldn't want to go back to being the idiot you were in your teens and 20s and sometimes even later. You wouldn't want to go back. We've come about to our knowledge and understanding after much experience and hard lessons. We have some compassion for that younger self, don't we? Diaz said everyone's got their limits, but we all also have a range of people that we could be more tolerant of to engage in conversation. Because I'm going to tell you straight up that every single person here is born with this sort of wonderful, enlightened, radiant consciousness. And I do know what that is because I looked it up. It's a Buddhist thing. You weren't sort of effed up to age X. We're all sort of messed up. We're all sort of messed up till age X. So what do you think about that person? What do you think about the self that you were? When you were all sorts of troglodyte. Well, maybe some of you weren't troglodytes. Is that person now someone you pretend that you erase? Where do we understand that the person who had all these messed up ideas led to the person we are now? And while we're not having a conversation with that young person we were, who if they were an adult would seem entirely malignant to us, there's something really, really convenient that involves a lot of erasure. From our understanding of what our current politics are, they often arise out of really messed up, uneducated BS thinking. And we're living with that person still, now that I've got this space of enlightenment and progressiveness, I like to think. But at this core, there was this other person. If I can engage with that person and live with them, I can make some gestures, you know? And like I said, what else am I doing? Maybe I should call my brother. Okay, and now if you're willing and able, please join in singing hymn number 121, We'll Build a Land. Hope I got that right.
Yeah.
Our closing words are these hands connect us to one another by the Reverends Amy Bowden Friedman and Keith Cron. Become aware of the hands that you are holding, their warmth, texture, and weight. As an infant, these same hands reached out for the nourishment of milk. As a child, these hands shakily wrote a name on paper for the first time. These hands have wiped away tears, clenched in anger, waved hello and goodbye countless times, and embraced loved ones. And now these hands are the tangible link that connects us to one another. Look and see those around you who have experienced so much that is life. These hands have worked, are working, and will work to make the world a better place. Go in peace, go in love, work for justice. Go forth and bless the world. Okay, we have a few announcements to share with you. More information about our events in the congregation are posted in the weekly newsletter and our website, northwestuu.org. And first, we're going to hear from Linda Gobeski to give us an update from the Ministerial Search Committee.
So the update is, we don't know yet. They haven't released the names, and we should know by the end of the week, and we will certainly keep you posted as things become clear for us. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. Susie and I were going to do a dance, but we weren't sure. She could sing, but we didn't know a song about patience, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's still hope, though. Okay. So now, first of all, getting to know you and potluck. So if you've recently attended Northwest, or as our new members, which I know they're here today, we'd like to take this opportunity to get to know you. So you'll have an opportunity to share about yourself and learn more about how our church is organized. You'll meet a few of the key leaders from the governing board and committees that help the church to run smoothly. You'll also hear about our religious education programs for adults and children, plus learn more about our UU history and our guiding 8 principles. We really hope to see you there. We'll meet at noon in Room C, and this isn't just the new members, even if you're visiting here for the first time. Next, we have a potluck. Our monthly potluck today after the service is hosted by the membership committee, and that's in the multipurpose room. If you aren't here for the first time, just follow everybody. And an important thing, please, for those who are going to the Getting to Know You, please do not allow our new members and those others attending the Getting to Know You through the potluck line first so that they can get their session started.